So if you're watching us, whether it's online, on air, on social, and you have friends in the Drexel area, tell them to seek shelter immediately, because this is just to the south of Drexel, west of Valdez, not too far from the airport there, which is the Hickory Airport, which is there in eastern part of Burke County. So this is going to head towards Amherst, Gamewell, which is you go over into the Caldwell County line, and then moving to the northeast. So let me kind of pop back and forth between the velocity data and the radar data, and it's right there. It's clearly on the radar. We'll have to see if we get some ground truth to that. We've got a lot of spotters up in that area that usually will give us some good information. And I haven't seen any confirmation from the ground yet, but just based on the radar signature, I would be concerned that this is definitely producing a tornado, because it looks similar to the ones that have produced tornadoes earlier today. So this is heading across basically right around the Drexel area, just south of there. So Drexel Road, basically heading towards Bud's Corners Kitchen there, just to the south of Drexel Elementary School. That's the general area there along 70 where it would be traveling, and then heading towards Drexel. So it's going to move right towards the Drexel area, and then eventually up towards the Catawba River and the west end of Rodas Lake. That's the general vicinity that we're looking at right there. So let me go back to the radar, and I'm going to turn off. Yeah, it's very distinct little hook showing up there, and that's what we saw with the earlier storms this afternoon, that they had these, didn't look like a whole lot, but that's the little hook right there. And if I do a track on that to the north, you could see it moving through the Drexel area here any minute now. So if you're in that area, again, make sure you're seeking shelter. But if you're not in that area, but you know people that do, it's always a good idea to call and text them. And they may not be aware that there is a current tornado warning in effect for their area. As we always say, the best thing you could do is get to the lowest floor of your home, an interior room. That green room is where you want to be, the lowest level, and as many walls between you and the outside. Those walls are going to protect you from flying debris, and that's the whole point in these storms, is to protect yourself from the flying debris, as that storm is now right over Drexel when I look at it on first warn Doppler radar, traveling off to the north. So I'm keeping a close eye on the spotter feeds up in that area. Haven't got any ground truth yet. Likely this is going to be hard to see. The terrain up there is a little bit more hilly than what we had up in northern Iredell County. But again, this area is pretty populated here along Interstate 40. This crossed over the interstate just a short time ago. I'm going to go back a couple frames, and you can see that little appendage there was coming across 18 there east of Yellow Gap, crossed the interstate, traveled just to the west of Valdez, and now is on the east side of Morganton. So we're getting at the very edge of the radar display here, which doesn't bode well for detection. But just on the edge here, we do still see that brief area of rotation there, just over Drexel. Now it's heading towards the Chesterfield community. So this is going to cross over the Catawba River, and again, you may see that's the west end of Lake Rodas. It's technically Lake Rodas, but it's still Catawba River there. That's where the lake goes all the way back towards the west. So again, this would be traveling over the county line and into Caldwell County, and then eventually heading up towards Avery, and eventually back towards areas in Watauga County on its current track. Now, all these cells had me a little nervous this afternoon that popped up here across the Piedmont. I'll loop this, because all of them at times this afternoon has shown subtle hints of rotation. And then within this line, we definitely have seen some stronger rotation to the south, but the ingredients are there for development along this whole line. I mean, something, the parameter we look at quite a bit is called the significant tornado parameter. And honestly, the whole Charlotte area, the Piedmont, everything else is actually got some pretty high levels of significant tornado parameter, or STP we call them for short. So as this next line comes up, you can see it coming out of the upstate. I mean, look at all these tornado warnings.